Okay, looks like we're going.
Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Andrea, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. For those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, be sure to say hi in the chat thread, like this video, and subscribe to the Unity of Fredericksburg YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Send an email to info@uofva.org to receive the Zoom link. And for everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from Reverend Lisa Marks. Reverend Lisa is an ordained minister of religious science and teaches science of mind classes in Native American ways. She uses her variety of skills as a credentialed counselor, encouraging and empowering others to see the good, true, and beautiful within for both adults and children. She has studied medical intuition and has had amazing results in both her energy work and her soul sessions. Reverend Lisa is available for teaching and facilitating a variety of classes and workshops. Check the Inner Peace website for endorsements of Reverend Lisa's work, and that's www.innerpeacerichmond.com. And now, here's Reverend Lisa.
Thank you. And I will start off by saying shalom, which means hello and goodbye. And I'm going to just give you a little background. There are three divisions of Judaism. There's Reform, there's Conservative, and there's Orthodox. So the Reform are more loose. And when I was growing up, our temple, our synagogue, was often referred to as the Jewish church. We went to services on Friday nights and Saturday mornings. Sunday was Sunday school. There was no Sunday service at all. Now, the conservative faction of Judaism, I had a lot of friends who went to that temple. They're more strict, and they had a lot more Hebrew in their service than we did. And they had Hebrew school on Saturdays, which I thankfully did not have to go to. And then there's Orthodox, which is very strict Judaism, following all of the rules and laws and all of that. And those are the people who had two sets of dishes. They didn't mix meat and milk or dairy, because it was kosher. Means that the food is sanitary, and to keep it sanitary, they use two sets of dishes. They walked on the Sabbath. They did not drive. They do not drive, and their Sabbath was Friday and Saturday as well. So that's important to my telling you about how I grew up. And I grew up in a pretty traditional Jewish home. We lit Shabbos candles on Friday nights at sunset, and we often went to temple on Friday nights. My mother was raised Reform, and my dad was raised Orthodox, which is opposite ends of the spectrum. So my mother won on the fact that we were raised Reform. And she actually introduced my dad to the finer things in life, like pork. He had never eaten pork before he met her, because pork is absolutely pig, considered an unclean animal. We attended Beth Ahaba. which is the sixth oldest congregation in the United States and the first that was not built along the coast. So Beth Haba is an inner city temple. And my mother and grandmother were secretaries to the rabbi, and we were fairly involved there. My dad was an usher. My brother and I sang in the children's choir. My parents were friends with both of our rabbis, and they would come to our house for dinner, or they would go out socially. So there are a lot of Jewish holidays, and we don't follow the calendar that that the world follows. The Jewish calendar is different, and every year a holiday can fall at a different time within a certain period, but it could be a different week, a different date. So there are a lot of Jewish holidays, and that they always begin at sunset the evening before. Tradition and celebrating the holidays was very important to my dad. We didn't go to school during the high holidays, which are Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. We were in temple. We fasted on Yom Kippur, and we did really big feasts with friends and family at sunset. Probably my favorite holidays were Passover and Hanukkah. On Passover, we had seders with other families, retelling the ancient story of the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt, and eating the traditional foods like matzah, which is unleavened bread, harosis and bitter herbs, the sweet and the bitter, that are part of a seder, all symbolic. On Hanukkah, we celebrated all 8 nights. We started with Hanukkah gelt on the first night, which is money. We had those gold chocolate coins when we were really little, and lit the candles representing the flask of oil that was only supposed to last for 1 night, but lasted 8 nights, as the Jews rebuilt and rededicated the temple that was destroyed by then King Antiochus and the Maccabees came to restore it, which was the Jewish army. As the nights progressed, the gifts got better and better, the last night being the best. While we did not celebrate Christmas, my parents didn't want us to miss the magic of Santa. So while there was no tree, we did leave out milk and cookies, and Santa knew to leave our gifts under the piano, which was always a conundrum for me, as I couldn't figure out how that big guy got himself under that low piano. But the real magic for me always was the sense of awe and wonder when the cookies and milk were gone in the morning. My brother was bar mitzvahed when he was 13, and that's about a boy becoming a man. But I was not bat mitzvahed, because in the Reformed temples didn't do it at that time. They do now. And it just wasn't a thing in our synagogue when I was growing up. Now it's much more widely done. But I was confirmed in the temple at age 16, which basically was the coming of an adult and the end of Sunday school. I was very involved in a youth group called BBYO, B'nai B'rith Youth, as a teenager, which taught me about organizations, leadership, carrying on the Jewish traditions and plights. I was in a group called Tikva BBG, and I went up the ranks, holding every office, including being president of my chapter. I also held office at the Virginia and regional levels. I used to put together and deliver Friday night creative services, and I credit that with giving me the impetus to become a religious science minister later on in life, which was not the hope of my Jewish parents. When I got to be an adult and started feeling more into my spiritual nature, Judaism held nothing for me. At some deep level, I knew there was more, and I started exploring that. When I tried to adopt a child through Jewish Family Services and they were no help adopting out to a single woman, I was pretty much done. I felt like my own people weren't there for me. So the rest of my life has always been about seeking out who my people are. To this day, I am very proud of my heritage, but the religious end of it doesn't fit for me. I grew up with a number of families that were Holocaust survivors, and I was deeply immersed in education around that. I have experienced anti-Semitism. In third grade, a boy in my class called me a dirty Jew. And I know he didn't know what he was saying, but he had heard it from somewhere. And my teacher washed his mouth out with soap. So I know the hurt and fear that accompanies that kind of discrimination. And I am proud of the resilience and courage of the Jewish people. There's a lot of anti-Semitism now, and people out there who don't believe the Holocaust ever happened. That's why it's important to talk about it. When I look back on my upbringing, I'm very grateful for it. Judaism is a simple religion. It says one God, God is love. I find that true of unity too. I never understood how or why the Christians went through Jesus to get to God, because God is readily accessible to all. I felt cocooned in my temple, known and loved by my rabbis and teachers, and it gave me the foundation on which my life is built from there. Being a religious science minister and now involved at Unity in many ways, I've been seeking that same feeling of belonging and have found it in different ways in different places. So truth is truth. You hear it everywhere if you listen. Now, when I do walk into a temple or live stream a service, I hear the messages with a different ear, with a different perspective, because the truth we know at Unity is everywhere. As a child growing up, one of the core prayers we would say was called the Shema. And it goes, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavo Malkuso, Leolam Voed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Praise be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. So the first 5 books of the Bible are the Torah. This is the Hebrew Bible. This is the only Bible that the Jewish people acknowledge. In fact, I didn't know there was something called a New Testament until I started taking science and mind classes. I thought, oh, they've written a new version of the Bible, but they hadn't. So now I am schooled in the New Testament, but it's not the first 5 books are what the Torah is and what all of the teachings of Judaism are based on. So I'm going to share some of the tenets of Judaism with you, and you'll hear similarities. So I'm not going to share all of them, but I'm going to share some. So Judaism says, these are the 13 principles of faith. God is the creator and guide of everything that has been created. He alone is the cause of all that exists. So that's changed for me a bit because I no longer see God as a he. I see God as energy and an intelligence that lives throughout the universe. God is absolute and unparalleled unity. He is one. God is eternal, the first and the last. God should be worshiped exclusively. He is the only one to whom it is proper to pray to. One should not pray to any foreign false gods. So in the in ancient times, there were a lot of false gods and a lot of statues and a lot of praying to things that were outside of God. And so that's where that comes from, and that does not happen today. All the words of the prophets in the Torah are true. The Torah will not be changed, and that there will be no other Torah given by God. The belief in God's omniscience and providence. So we believe that God is omniscient. Unity believes that God is omniscient. The coming of the Messiah and the Messianic era, that's still something that's talked about. And the resurrection of the dead. And I'm going to talk a little bit about reincarnation. So there was one of these principles that I was surprised by and that I don't agree with at all. And it says that God rewards those who observe his commandments and punish those who transgress his commandments. That is not the way I was brought up. God is not a punishing God. And so that surprised me a little bit. So what makes Judaism different from all other religions? It's the only religion that started in front of millions of witnesses when God gave Moshe Rabbeinu and Am Yisrael the Holy Torah on Mount Sinai. While some religions are based on action without belief, belief without action, or simply birthright, the Torah teaches us that all three, belief and action, birthright, belief, and action, parts are what makes a Jew Jewish. And one thing that I will add here is that the way that Jewish people are referred to is sometimes a point of contention. Jewish people don't like being called Jews because there's a negative connotation to that. So we make a point of saying Jewish people. The prayer is the cornerstone of Judaism as it is in unity. Judaism says prayer is both a duty required by God of humanity and a spiritual need of humanity for God. And also, the basic function of prayer is not its practical consequences, but the metaphysical formation of a fellowship consisting of God and man. And so I think that's very much right in line with what unity says. So prayer is the cornerstone, I think, probably for both religions, and probably in all religions, it's a cornerstone. I know that the Unity Church that I attend is very big on prayer. I'm a prayer chaplain there. And in Judaism, prayer was always something that was up front in our temple, something we did at home. We said prayers at home. So I also looked at what both of them say about reincarnation, because that's an interest for me. I do soul sessions, which is regression work, and I believe in reincarnation, and the Jewish people basically believe. So starting with unity, Charles Fillmore thought he might not be physically immortal, as well as believing that he might be the reincarnation of Paul the Apostle. I found that pretty interesting. And a Reverend Karen Johnson says Unity members are mostly in agreement that humans leave their earth suit behind when they die. The past that goes on is consciousness and spirit. And so Judaism believes that, well, there's two factions here. There's Judaism, and then there's the Kabbalah, and what the Kabbalah says, and they're a little different. So Judaism believes that souls are reborn specifically to perfect certain aspects of themselves or to complete unfinished tasks. And then there's also the belief that it's an esoteric belief within many streams of modern Judaism, but not an essential tenet of Judaism. So if you look at the Kabbalah, it talks about samsara, which is the cycle of death and rebirth, and gigol, which is in line with samsara, that means to spin. In the Kabbalistic view, the soul spins onward through a great many bodies, striving after a higher form of perfection. Jewish mystical tradition is the belief that one's actions in this life can affect one's subsequent reincarnations for good or for ill. And what I read about or learned about with unity, it says that we find the answers to the questions of reincarnation in Unity's statement of faith, which is statement number 22. And it says, we believe that the dissolution of spirit, soul, and body caused by death is annulled by rebirth of the same spirit and soul in another body here on earth. We believe the repeated incarnation of man to be a merciful provision of our loving Father, to the end that all may have the opportunity to attain immortality through regeneration, as did Jesus. This corruptible must put on incorruption. Death is a dissolution of body, not of soul and spirit. Excuse me, this heat has caused terrible allergies. We believe in the rebirth of the same spirit and soul in another body here on earth. In what form are the soul and spirit of man reincarnated? We believe in the repeated incarnations of man. The soul and spirit reincarnate in the form of man, not in the form of some animal, bird, tree, or other form. So I think that's interesting because it's that comes up a lot when people ask me that a lot when they come for regression is, well, have I ever been an animal or a bird or whatever? And I don't think reincarnation quite works that way. But as I was looking through the similarities, I think, again, truth is truth, and you can find it anywhere. And so, I've gotten not a re-interest necessarily, but on the holidays, I want to attend a service, and I'm not inclined really to go into a temple, especially not right now with the climate on the planet. So I have tuned in to a number of services, mostly in New York City. And I hear that there's much more openness to the idea of being omnipresent and everywhere present, and just a lot of openness that I didn't grow up, or maybe as I was growing up I couldn't hear it because I didn't know it, and now I do. So I wanted to share with you a prayer that was my favorite prayer growing up. And this is the Union Prayer Book, my Union Prayer Book that I received when I was confirmed. And so I have kept it low these many years. But this is my favorite prayer. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thy heart. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. Thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your God. And so it is. So we're going to go into meditation. And I have been actually taking my second class in ancestral healing, which is another topic for another day. Interestingly enough, a rabbi is teaching it. And this has been so cool for me because it's like a reintroduction to being schooled by a rabbi. And she is amazing. And this ancestral healing is amazing. It has led me to believe that that we reincarnate along a family line, and that we are our ancestors. And it's just opened me in a way that I've been looking to be opened. So ancestors can be family, they can be friends who have gone on. They can be people that you admire, that have gone on. Not family, not friends, just people that you resonate with or have resonated with. And they can be ancestors. So as we've been studying this, we've been talking about our wise and well ancestors. And they can be anybody, a family member, friend, etc., whoever you think would be considered to be wise and well for you. So I'm going to take you through a little visualization and see what comes up for you. So I'm just going to ask that you sit quietly where you are and take a few deep breaths. And just allow each breath to take you a little deeper and a little deeper. Until you find yourself in your inner core. And just imagine that when you open your eyes, you are seated on a bench in a beautiful garden that belongs to the Divine Mother. Everywhere you look, there are plants and flowers, shrubs and trees, birds singing. It's the most calm, peaceful, loving environment. And you just feel so at home, so cocooned, and so present in this environment. And suddenly, someone comes walking towards you. You may recognize them, you may not. but they are an ancestor. And they have come to have these moments with you. So just invite them to come and sit with you on the bench. Even if you don't know who they are, they look familiar. And if you do know who they are, then welcome them in. Embrace them. Because they represent a wise and well ancestor for you. And now this person has a message for you, which is why they've shown up here today. And so we're going to go into the silence for a minute or two and just listen and be present with this one. And so as you have this message in your heart, and you can say goodbye to this ancestor and know that they are never far, that they are there with you, that they love you, and they want the highest and best for you. And so you can watch them step away and just return to looking at the beauty of the garden, which represents the beauty that lies within you. Just gently close your eyes and begin to feel yourself sitting in your chair or wherever you are. And when you feel ready to just open your eyes and be present. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Reverend Lisa. That was great. All of it was
Thank
great.
you.
And thank you, everyone else, for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching and see you next time.